Hi everyone. My name is Adele Hatfield. I'm Assistant Rector at St. Peter's Episcopal Church in Salisbury, Maryland. And this is the third video in our Tuesday series where the Rector, Father David Michaud, and I are offering words of hope and encouragement as we all struggle with how to live in this present time. So it's the season of Easter, and we have been speaking about new life and the promises of God fulfilled. And here in Snow Hill, it's a pleasure to see the new life coming along in my garden, a real-time reminder that God's care for us and for creation is evident. One of the challenges of gardening is that it requires waiting. You have to wait until it's warm enough to plant. You have to wait until the nurseries have the plants available for you to plant. And if you plant seeds, you have to wait for those to germinate. And then, after everything's planted, you do a lot of waiting for the plants to produce. So, as a gardener, I've begun to appreciate this practice of waiting. And we are all waiting these days to be able to come out of our homes and resume our activities, and for some of us to resume employment. During the Advent season, in the church year, we talk a lot about waiting. But now it's Easter. Jesus has risen, and we're still waiting. The writer Henry Nouwen wrote that waiting is difficult because it makes us fearful. When we are afraid, we have a hard time waiting, and our emotions may become unhinged. Yesterday, I saw a news article about an ice cream shop in the Northeast where people were asked to pre-order their ice cream an hour ahead, and then when they came to pick it up, to wait in a line with people 6 feet apart, as has been called for. Well, that sounds reasonable enough in the current situation, right? But according to the report, emotions ran high because people didn't like waiting for their ice cream. On the surface, it sounds a bit ridiculous, but I think the uncertainties of life at this time are really affecting people. And as Nouwen notes, people who live in a world of fear are more likely to be more aggressive, hostile, even destructive, and have those kinds of responses than people who are not so frightened. The more afraid we are, the harder waiting becomes. So I was looking at the lectionary for this week for the daily offices, and I noticed that on Tuesday, May 12th, one of the psalms appointed is Psalm 62. And it's a psalm that helps us reorient our thoughts, I think, from fear to the promises of God. It emphasizes that by waiting for God, we have a means to place our hope. In the midst of crises, the psalmist exhorts the characteristics of God whom they can depend on. And the psalmist says this about God: God is my rock, my salvation, my stronghold, my hope, my safety, my honor, my refuge. And then the psalmist tells us to pour our hearts out to God, to pray about our fears, to pray about our needs, to put our trust in God. And because of that trust, the psalmist can be in a place of calmness and able to rest peacefully instead of fighting back with a storm of words. Finally, the psalmist tells us to remember that God's loving kindness is steadfast. God's steadfast love gives us confidence in God's promise to care for us. Listen now to the words of Psalm 62. For God alone my soul in silence waits. From him comes my salvation. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my stronghold, so that I shall not be greatly shaken. How long will you assail me to crush me, all of you together, as if you were a leaning fence, a toppling wall? They seek only to bring me down from my place of honor. Lies are their chief delight. They bless with their lips, but in their hearts they curse. For God alone my soul in silence waits. Truly, my hope is in him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my stronghold, so that I shall not be shaken. In God is my safety and my honor. God is my strong rock and my refuge. Put your trust in him always, O people. Pour out your hearts before him, for God is our refuge. Even those of high degree are but a fleeting breath. Even those of low estate cannot be trusted. On the scales they are lighter than a breath, all of them together. Put no trust in extortion. In robbery take no empty pride. Though wealth increase, set not your heart upon it. God has spoken once, twice have I heard it, that power belongs to God. Steadfast love is yours, O Lord, for you repay everyone according to his deeds. For God alone my soul in silence waits. I love that verse. As Henry Nouwen wrote, a waiting person is a patient person with a willingness to stay where they are and live the situation out to the full. He also notes that waiting is open-ended. Yes, that describes our current situation, does it not? When we remember the promises of God, though, we will become less likely to be fearful. Hope is always open-ended. We can put our trust in God because the promises of God came to us in the person of Jesus. In this time of trouble, we can remember that we have been given hope through the strength and love of God found in Jesus Christ. So, if you want to know more about the Psalms, there's actually a course going on taught by Father David on Thursday mornings at 9 o'clock. And you can access that through our website, stpeterschurch.net, and go on the menu bar under Learn, and you will see how to get on the Zoom meeting to be able to access the course, and I hope that you will. Have a great week, everyone, and may God continue to bless you and all of us at St. Peter's and beyond.